My name is Bill Craig. I'm the current board president, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to this annual meeting. We have lots of interesting business to conduct today and some great presentations to offer, so we'll try to move through fairly briskly. And I wanted to start by saying, if you haven't signed in, please do. That's important for us to know who's here and how many folks are here at each annual meeting. And looking at us here and realizing we have a good crowd, but a little thinner than last year, I'm just going to start right off by saying, next year, each of us drag another member here, okay? Keep it up. Let's keep it strong. The more of us involved, the better. But this is great, and we are so glad you are here today. We get to start off right here with that wonderful detail of every well-run meeting, the approval of the previous meeting's minutes. And here to present the 2018 annual meeting minutes is our board secretary, Dana Grossman.
The minutes of last year's annual meeting, which I have a copy of here, have been posted on the website since very shortly after the meeting was held on April 7th, 2018. Do I hear a motion to accept those minutes? And motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Thank you.
Let's see. It says here on our annual meeting agenda, the next item is President's Welcome. And I don't know how better to welcome you than to talk about the great privilege of being here. First of all, we're having this gathering together thanks to the stewardship of the chair of the annual meeting committee, Ann Shriver-Sargent, who's put in so much work to make this possible, and we should thank her. And as Ann wanted me to make sure I said, and as we all know on the board, none of this is even remotely possible without our board administrator, April Harkness. Okay, last time I stood here, our annual meeting's theme and emphasis was on the co-op's hundreds of employees. We have so much to thank them for, and appreciating them every day is a great way to practice real cooperation, our goal. And this year, we have the opportunity to congratulate an eminent cooperator, our former GM, Terry Appleby, who is being awarded the Hall of Fame Award from the National Cooperative Hall of Fame this year. The national people have a lot to thank Terry for, and I know that we have to thank him for the foundational gift of his service to this co-op for so many years. And this year in particular, I want to take the opportunity to talk about our co-op by talking about just one employee. He doesn't know I'm going to do this, so he'll have to forgive me. And I will appeal to his modesty by saying that talking about him is another way of talking to my fellow members about cooperation. No matter how careful and prolonged the process, hiring an employee or getting hired by a new employer is always a lot like a blind date. You really don't know much at all until you've already said yes. The co-op community had a difficult job choosing between remarkable candidates for a general manager to follow Terry Appleby. The committee did a great job, the board was united in its choice, but then the choice was made, one of the most important in our co-op's history, and our community was committed to change. Ed Fox has changed himself in only one way in the time I've had the honor of observing him filling the role as GM. His commitment to and enthusiasm for cooperative principles has grown deeper, more meaningful, and more effective with every working week. I've seen that commitment result in new and powerful expressions of our co-op's principles, and it's clear to me that it will lead to more. Now, principles are nice, but this cooperative is a business, and I can hear the good, hard-headed bottom-liners that every organization needs asking, what about the principle of staying in business? So I'll start by saying that we can't overappreciate this fact, that under Ed Fox's leadership, a co-op that was dipping into the red has turned up into the black. Our co-op is in better shape financially today than it has been in years. Good management, hard choices, and creative opportunities to engage have given the co-op new strengths, like a revised planning and budgeting process that facilitates analysis and savings, lowered rates for our participation in an essential supplier cooperative, the high-margin business at the new co-op service center in Norwich, and the assurance of lowered administrative costs in the coming White River Junction administrative headquarters. Just more and more good change. Honestly, there have been so many effective operational changes and good outcomes that I can't give myself the time to list them all here because this is supposed to be short. So I have to move on above the single bottom line to the triple bottom line. Our co-op commitment not only to financial accounting, but also social and environmental accounting. I've been deeply impressed by how quickly Ed Fox has made connections to communities and leaders in our Upper Valley. To put it frankly, though we on the board are from here, after Ed's first few months in the job, I rarely saw a social or environmental issue raised in which Ed wasn't 3 steps ahead of the board, able to report on substantive discussions with nonprofit executives, mayors, select boards, business leaders, and community activists. He's all about engagement. And I can tell you that I've observed the deep respect accorded him in the regional and national cooperative business movement. Where there are opportunities for our co-op to serve our community at home or to stand up here and in Montpelier and in Concord and Washington for our principals, Ed is making sure that we are present and prepared. Again, my time here is limited, and I happen to know that Ed is going to tell you about some of these social and environmental engagements in just a minute, not by praising himself, but rather by thanking his co-workers, the co-op's many amazing employees. So I want to close these remarks by saying that the relationship between board and general manager, that is, between the membership, all of you, as represented by the board, is a crucial expression of cooperative principles. Cooperation is about building together. Under policy governance, TM, our co-op's chosen governing system, we each do our own defined work, not interfering, but both supporting and holding one another accountable for nurturing this cooperative society. Policy governance is an intellectually, morally, and emotionally challenging tool to use. For example, it asks the board to choose a general manager to run the stores and then to actually let him run the stores without our advice on how we ought to display the tomatoes or who we ought to hire. If the GM's methods are sound, and even if they're not our ideas, we can only hold a GM accountable for outcomes. A fantastic challenge to every person's desire to kibitz. But by sticking to our roles, we support one another and the co-op in success. All co-ops everywhere that I've heard about in this movement struggle with this interesting relationship. I want to emphasize that cooperative duty to support. In life and in cooperation, we don't nurture, we don't raise each other up by scolding or scowling, but by appreciating and advising. When something's wrong, we call attention to it. That's our job. But when nothing's wrong, or when something's very right, it's equally and maybe even more constructively our duty to call attention to that rightness, to that success. To strengthen success by recognizing it, by sharing our consciousness of it, by bringing the reassurance of that success into our cooperative's engagement with the challenges ahead. I'm glad to report to this 2019 annual meeting of our society that the measurable outcomes in dollars and cents and in other social and environmental outcomes clearly document what some of you already know, but which too few of us may have taken the opportunity to recognize and share. We have a wonderful, successful, cooperatively committed general manager, and the operations of our co-op are thriving and in excellent hands. There are challenges ahead for our co-op in the grocery business for the nation, but as members and board members, we can hold ourselves accountable for recognizing that the state of our co-op, with great credit to our general manager, is very strong. I'm glad to share that news with you.
Okay, we dip into vegetables a lot in the co-op here, so we're going to be doing some bean counting a little bit here. Lots of beans. If you can have the next slide, please. Yeah, we raised Okay, with the revenues of over $74 million over 2018. Oh, by the way, I should say that I'm presenting the audited books for 2018, and I want to thank Jeff Wheeler and the company Baker Newman and Noyce for having doing the audit of our books. Thank you very much. It's very much appreciated, and telling us we're in good shape. And as you can see, when we deduct the price of the goods that we put on the shelf and so forth, we keep about 32%. That's just where we want to be. So far, so good. Through operations, we've been saving compared to the previous year. And as you go down the numbers, you see we have gone from red in 2017 to some good black numbers in 2018. So we have made progress. We're out of a little hole. It was not a big hole, but still, it was a little hole. And so I'm pleased to report that actually we have money for a patronage refund this year. It's 1,018. Yeah. So April, can you show the next slide? Yeah. Next slide, please. All right, celebrations. Right. Yeah. It's not a big amount. It's modest. But it's very symbolic because we have not had a patronage refund for quite some years. So we are rejoicing. And most of you should have a little check in the mail at some point. The check is in the mail, indeed. Okay, you can go on. This is to show the perspective a little bit of the last 4 or 5 years. To show that the revenues are back to where they were okay, back in 2014. So, but you see we've maintained operations and gross revenues. And if you look at the yellow line, you see that dip that we'd actually, by reading on the scale on the left, we've been negative for the last couple of years. We've gotten ourselves out of the hole, and we are on an upward trajectory, and we do hope that this will continue and bring us back to a healthy profit like we had last in 2014. So far, so good. Next slide. Okay, part of an audit is to do the balance sheet. And it's, well, I'm not going to go over all the numbers. I just want to point out that our cash position is very strong. That's a sign of strength, and we rejoice in that. You can go on to the next slide, April. Okay. We do keep track of some of the statistics. Two of them are the basket size. That's the average sale per customer at the cash register. So what's worth in the basket that people bring to the register at the time of their purchase. And as you can see, it has been going up in all 3 stores and as well as in the community market, all 4 stores, including the little one on Lime Street. I want to point out that the White River Junction Co-op has seen as much raise in the basket size as the other co-ops, but since the basket size small, it's actually a greater relative growth. So we're very happy to see that White River store is really a great success. The Lebanon store, of course, keeps on leading the sales in terms of both basket size, the highest of the 4 stores, and also in customer count that you can see on the right. Just a little bit of an explanation. The customer count in Hanover dipped a few years back. That was because of the remodel of the store that has rebounded, as you can see. During that renovation, some of the customers migrated to the Lebanon store. That's why it was a peak, and then they went back to shop in Hanover. That's why it went back down. So we're not concerned about the fact it went down over the last few years in Lebanon, and we are steady. It's in continuous growth in White River Junction. That's a gray line. It looks very good. So many of our indicators are going upright. We have a patronage refund. We have a good cash position. We have increasing basket size, increasing customer counts. What I can say, we are very successful. We've been here around since 1936. It looks like we are going to be in by another 83 years, as far as I can tell. So it was all good news. And then just a last slide to brief you on where we are with pennies for change. As you may remember, back in June 2016, we began that process of rounding up, for those who wish, the purchase at the nearest dollar, saving a few pennies on every purchase. Since inception, we have raised more than $600,000. This is really significant. We will be reaching $1 million out of pennies, believe it or not, in a few short years. We've selected 3 major donors for 2018, which are all in the food access sector. Listen, The Haven, Willing Hands, and by the way, I want to extend a profuse thanks to the Listen for having lend their facilities here so we can hold that meeting here. So we have a good reciprocal relationship with the Listen. We help support their endeavors and they help support us as well. That left some money, almost $100,000 for smaller donations to a variety of smaller entities, organizations here in the Upper Valley. Bill, our president, mentioned that we work on the triple bottom line, so I showed you the business bottom line. This is about the community, the social bottom line as well.
It's nice to get a great report. Thank you, Benoit and Mark. Good morning, my name is Ed Fox and I'm the general manager of the co-op. To all our members, board members, employees, I'd like to thank you all for coming to the 2019 co-op annual meeting. It's an honor to be here with you today. If my remarks do anything this morning, I hope they remind you that cooperation is alive and well and thriving all over the world. I see it in action through the work of this co-op and its worldwide network of cooperative peers. That's one of the many reasons I've come to admire the people in this organization. Its members, board members, employees, and partners. Our co-op regularly restores my faith in humanity. It renews my belief in our great capacity for decency. I believe our annual meeting is a good time to honor that and to talk more about where we've been and where we're going next. So where are we going? How do we keep moving forward? I'd like to suggest that it's not solely through our stores or our discounts or our patronage refunds or even the food. Instead, what guides us are our cooperative ends. Our co-op ends may not be familiar to everyone, so let me articulate real briefly what they are. Simply put, our co-op ends are 8 broad, ambitious ideas, which we summarize as the ends result and we aim to achieve in the world and in our community. One of my colleagues, Amanda Charlin, describes the co-op's ends as aspirational, which I think is a very good word. These ends results touch on a number of important topics: health, charity, education, cooperation, local agriculture, employment, sustainability, and diversity among them. Collectively, they inspire to greatness. To paraphrase Robert Frost, which is something that's pretty apt for this audience, our co-op is taking the road less traveled by, and that makes all the difference. I encourage you to learn more about the co-op ends by visiting our website, reading my regular general manager's report, and reading our yearly ends report. These reports detail how we put our co-op ends into practice. Our approach to our work isn't proprietary, but instead is open and transparent and available to you. As I often say, my door is always open. If you read our latest ends report, you see that we are in the midst of the most productive period in our history. Today, our sales are incredibly strong. We've launched a new co-op kitchen, new product lines, a workforce plan, a pathways program for our employees, pennies for change, value propositions, a member engagement project, and an industry-leading technology suite. We've expanded our auto service repairs center. We're opening a new facility in Norwich. We've collected more than $675,000 in donations for Upper Valley nonprofits. We've delivered tons of food from diverted tons of food from the landfill and donated to our farming friends and neighbors in need. We developed an innovative resource center. We're in the midst of developing an innovative resource center in White River Junction that's central to our operations and will serve both members and employees alike. We're engaged in advocacy work at local, state, and national levels. working on systems change within a framework of economic justice and human rights. We are creating a strategic plan for the first of its kind for us that looks at 5, 10, or even 15 years down the road. And most recently, we're committed to reducing our dependency on plastic bags throughout our stores in every department, with the end goal of phasing them out completely at the registers by the spring of 2020. All of these things are a natural extension of the 8 end results we aim to achieve in our world. Could this have been done without our co-op ends? And I don't believe this could have been. The ends give us certain clarity of purpose, and ultimately through our collective patronage, the ends are what we deliver to our members and shoppers and employees in the community we serve. Generations from now, our members may envision a completely different business from the one we operate today. 20, 50 years, 100 years from now, our communities may not even need a cooperatively owned grocery store, or a kitchen, or a service center. But our world will always need nourishment, and especially nourishment of hope, connected communities, meaningful creative work, and the bold, life-affirming vision that our co-op ends have to offer. On that note, I'd like to leave you with a challenge this morning. Learn more about these ends and the results of our ends, and find your own passion within them, and then engage. One of my heroes, Dag Hammarskjöld, was a Swedish economist and the second Secretary General of the United Nations, and he once said, "For all that has been, thanks. For all that will be, yes." I love that quote because it reminds me that we should look back with a sense of appreciation and look forward with a sense of optimism. So I close my remarks this morning, and I thank you for where we've been, and I look forward to where we will be. Thank you.
So good morning, everyone. My name is Emily Rogers. I'm the Member Education Manager here at the Co-op, and I am really here to just introduce Mark to you. So Mark Morgan is the Solid Waste Manager for the City of Lebanon, and we're really excited to partner with him on the Refill Not Landfill campaign. So I'm just going to turn it over to Mark and let him explain this campaign that we're super excited about, and I hope if you are interested in taking the pledge, you can do so right out in the lobby. Thank you.
Good morning, thank you. It's great to be here, and it's an honor to partner with the co-op on this project. It's great to see that we have reusable plates, mugs, and all sorts of goodies here this morning. The Refill Not Landfill campaign started last year, actually just with a really simple conversation with Pat McGovern. She and I were having coffee one morning and just talking about single-use disposables and how do we move the needle a little further away from single-use disposable items. Not primarily focused on plastics, but just to change the way people think. So we had this really big idea, and then we laser focused it a bit and came up with Refill Not Landfill. We tried to figure out ways to get people to just rethink about how they're generating trash every day. We consume an enormous amount of bottled water out of plastic bottles that may or may not be recycled. More often than not, they're not recycled. We consume a lot of coffee in disposable coffee cups. There's just a lot of things that we do every day, and they're choices that we make. We can legislate good behavior, but we have the power to make decisions on our own. And that's where this project really started from, is just putting some power in the hands of each one of us every day. So this year, Amanda, Emily, and I sat down and started talking about how do we move this needle even further. And with their help, really came up with kind of an interesting idea. I'm a bit of a scatterbrain sometimes when I'm in those brainstorming sessions and really blurt out some bizarre ideas. They went with my bizarre ideas. So from that, we have this pledge. So the idea was to get people to commit to something for 1 month. And it could be something very small, and what some people may see as insignificant, like I will use a reusable bag all month, or I will not use disposable plastic bottles for water. I'm going to carry a bottle with me. It's all very simple. So we developed a pledge that's on the city website, and as Emily pointed out, there's a laptop out in the the entryway, where you can pledge. It's very simple, and all you're doing is saying, I will, XYZ, whatever it is that you want to do. And nobody is policing this, okay? So this is between you and yourself in that regard. But it's really just to start a conversation. The co-op has been fantastic about donating prizes. Emily and Amanda have been great in promoting the idea. We've developed a website on the city website. The co-op has been partnering with us on articles and getting the message out to the larger public. So each week, a name will be selected from the pledges to win reusable prizes that could be used wherever. But again, just to move that needle. The other thing that we've done is we've kind of talked about, okay, the month of April is great. How do we make this a bit bigger? So we've been talking about developing a community conversation during the month of May, where we invite people in and have a conversation about how do we take down some of these barriers for reuse and to reduce waste. So we'll be having a conversation in May at the co-op. Some other really exciting things is we've been invited to do a webinar for communities throughout the Northeast on how to institute their own refill, not landfill campaigns, even in communities like I've been speaking with the city of Boston, Portland, Maine, and Providence, Rhode Island, about doing this campaign throughout the Northeast. So that's really exciting. So we would have done the program anyway, but I'll tell you what, it wouldn't have been as cool as it is right now without the help of the co-op. So I just want to thank the co-op, Ed Fox, Amanda Charlin, and Emily Rogers. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Jessica Giordani, and I'm one of the board members here at the co-op. And today it's my pleasure to get to announce this year's Alan and Nan King Award. Affiliate Alan and Nan King joined the Hanover Co-op in 1941 and were active co-op members for over 50 years, bringing lively discussion and sage points of view to decades of annual meetings, as well as serving on the board of directors and as board presidents. Both were avid believers in the cooperative model, and both contributed to the local and wider community in many ways. This award recognizes the achievements of a co-op member who demonstrates the ideals embodied in the cooperative principle, concern for community. The cooperative principles, defined by the International Cooperative Alliance, are the guidelines by which the modern cooperatives put their values into practice. The seventh principle, concern for community, states cooperatives work for the sustainable development of their communities through policies approved by their members. The King Award recipient will designate a local nonprofit to receive $500 as an award from the co-op. And I'm just going to read a little bit from one of the numerous nominations we received this year for this person in our community. This year's recipient was a founding member of the Enfield Village Association, whose mission is to enhance the town's cultural, historical, recreational, and natural resources while promoting economic development. Her interest in history, art, and culture made her a strong proponent early on for restoration of building projects that the Enfield Village Association had undertaken over the years. And she's also been involved in building community through the EVA activities that bring families into the historic village, such as the town's hometown holidays and the old home days. She led the effort to get Enfield's downtown designated a historic district, and it's the largest historic district in the entire state of New Hampshire. She then led the efforts to help the town purchase the last remaining waterfront parcel on Mascoma Lake from the state to ensure that it would provide public accessibility to the lake. The Mascoma Lakeside Park now has a beautiful picnic and small boat access park on the rail trail and is used by many residents and families from the surrounding areas. She continues to lead an effort to reinvest volunteer efforts in our historic byway along Route 4A and extend it to other parts of Enfield, all while she participates in many meetings as one of the 3 select board members of Enfield. It is my distinct pleasure this morning to present this award to Meredith Smith.
Thank you. Well, I can't believe I did all that stuff. My real big Magilla project for the last 10 years is to make sure that the 3.1 acres owned by the New Hampshire Department of Transportation did not fall into the hands of the developers. I was an an annoying little hornet in town hall on a regular basis, and kept at it and was told time and again the town cannot afford to buy that land. Well, we started a fundraising drive and raised every penny to buy this beautiful piece of property from private citizens. And in March, we signed the deed with the DOT, so we now own this beautiful piece of property, and I urge you all to come by and just sit and enjoy the lake. It's the only park in the state of New Hampshire that has the rail trail on one side and the lake on the other. We just, really within the last 2 weeks, made an arrangement with the New Hampshire Lakes Association, and Lake Mascoma will become the first sort of test case for the Healthy Lakes program, which we're very excited about. We'll teach children about watershed issues and what a healthy lake can be. The possibilities are endless, and now that we own the land, we also received in July a Northern Borders Regional Commission grant to build a pavilion at the lake. And I don't like the word pavilion, it brings up images of Coney Island. And anyhow, a rain shelter. If you're riding your bike on the rail trail and suddenly a thunderstorm comes up, there'll be a safe place to go. So this award will help us make the match for the pavilion. And I want to thank you all for making this possible, really. And now I need a new project. Thank you very much.
I'm Rosemary Fifield. I'm a member of the Board of Directors, and I'm here to talk about the Hanover Cooperative Community Fund. Our community fund was formed in the year 2000 by our Board of Directors, and since that time, co-op members have donated money, oftentimes by giving back their patronage refund checks, and also employees have done an amazing job of raising money through all sorts of creative ways. And so today, our endowment for the HCCF stands at roughly $460,000. And that endowment is used to lend money to cooperative development organizations in the Northeast. And then the interest which we receive is given back to the community. In the last 19 years, we have given back over $123,000 from the HCCF. So in 2018, we had $12,700 to give. And we do it through two programs, the Community Project Grants and the Gerstenberger Scholarship for Education, for cooperative education. 12 organizations applied for our community project grants. And our committee, which is made up of co-op members, employees, and board members, read all 12 applications and came up with 4 recipients. April, could I have the next one? In Shape is a program of West Central Behavioral Health. It is a mentored program of exercise, food education, and social interaction for people with serious mental illness. This photo, which was provided to us by West Central, shows one of their groups enjoying a cooking class at our Culinary Learning Center. Next. April? Okay, well, the next one, so we can keep going here, is called Crockpot Library. And the Crockpot Library is a project of Twin Pines Cooperative Housing. And what our money did was it purchased 10 crock pots and the utensils for residents to learn about how to use the food that they get from Willing Hands and from the Vermont Food Bank. So they have classes, they get their crock pot, they fill that crock pot with a recipe, take it home, finish the meal, serve it to their families, and then bring the crock pot back for the next class. Next one, please. The December holiday food baskets were distributed by the Clara Martin Center to families in Vermont and New Hampshire. A lot of people, a lot of organizations remember Thanksgiving and give out food baskets, but the December holidays are often forgotten. This is an opportunity for both Vermont and New Hampshire families to receive food so that they could enjoy with their 150 families and over 400 individuals had a better December holiday because of this. And the Growing Peace Project is in Topsom, Vermont. This is a very interesting program that for a year brings middle school students from different cultural backgrounds together. They do a lot of cooperative learning about different things. They talk about racism, about poverty, about food insecurity, and bullying. And they also grow a garden and they share the food with needy Vermonters, both by delivering some to their homes and also by cooking for them and inviting them to dinners. The Gerstenberger Scholarship for Cooperative Education is named for two former GMs of the co-op, Harry and Arthur Gerstenberger, and Sally Gerstenberger, who was the co-op's first education director. The Gerstenberger Scholarship in 2017 was given for 2 years to the New Hampshire resident-owned communities. Resident-owned communities are former mobile home parks, which were owned usually by a single owner, that have been converted to cooperatives, and now the people who live there cooperatively own the land on which their homes reside. The resident-owned community is one of the fastest growing types of cooperatives, and New Hampshire has currently 128 mobile home parks that have been converted to resident-owned communities, which are cooperatives. Next one, April. In 2018, we also awarded the Gerstenberger Scholarship to Melissa Scanlon, who lives in Norwich, Vermont. Melissa is the director of the New Economy Law Center at Vermont Law School, and she is currently a senior Fulbright scholar who is in Spain studying cooperatives. She's looking at the environmental impact of cooperatives. And she has this very interesting blog, which is called Co-op Verde. It's at coopverde.wordpress.com. April, just a couple more examples of what her blog looks like. If you would like to check it out, it's very interesting. And of course, she's continuously adding to it. When she finishes in Europe and returns, she will be giving a talk at the co-op about her experiences. One more. So our goal for the HCCF is to reach an endowment of $500,000. We're currently around $470,000. We would ask that you might consider giving your patronage refund check to the HCCF, because as you can see, as we raise our endowment, that money will continue to give back to the community for decades to come.
Wow. Well, those of you who have agendas in front of you, we've come to that part of the meeting which, hint, hint, we have made the widest allocation of minutes for member comments and Q&A. So this is an opportunity at our annual meeting for members to ask questions that have been on their minds, questions raised by the materials we put in front of you today, questions about your co-op. I believe we have a microphone over here for folks to use, and is there a roving mic? Just over there, okay. So if you have a big, loud voice, you can just stand up and speak, and otherwise there's a nice microphone on over here. Any questions or comments from the membership here today? Hi.
I'm wondering why we sell water enclosed in plastic. It might be sufficient to have one little bit of water in plastic for those who don't have a source of water at home, but most of our towns test the water that comes into our homes, and it's deemed potable. So why are we doing that?
Mm-hmm. Let's see, who wants to answer that question amongst staff or committee members? Thanks, please come on.
It's a tag team cooperation.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's a great question, and we will certainly look into it. I know, like you said, there are folks who want the bottled water and necessarily carry it, but why we sell it in general is I really have to dig into my team and look at that. I'm sorry I don't have a specific answer for that, but I appreciate you bringing that up.
Do you think a greater degree of workplace democracy and workers' participation in the decision-making process in the co-op would be a benefit to this organization?
May I ask, is it okay if you get more than one answer for that?
Yes, absolutely.
Because I know that there would probably be some interesting opinions on the board about that, and of course then there's the general manager and other opinions. I can say that democracy has a pretty good rep on the board as far as that preference goes. And who'd like to address that question?
Yeah, absolutely, and it happens every day on different decision-making levels, whether it's working in your very specific job or something that's happening in your department or your store. Just yesterday, we produced an internal newspaper, so to speak, for our employees. And our community market on Lime Road, the store manager there wrote a really nice piece on how they did a reset of the store, and how all of her team was involved, and also cross-functional teams were involved. Several people from our merchandising department were involved in it, several people from the Lebanon store were involved in it, and everybody had a say on what it was going to look like, from bringing in their expertise as far as product, their background in retail, who their customers are and what they're looking for. So things like that happen all the time there, and yes, absolutely, more of it in any way would certainly be better, but we do encourage that, and we see it all the time in our co-op.
My name's Gabe Zorheit, and I'm the Executive Director of Willing Hands. And while I had you all here today, I just wanted to underline Willing Hands and the 5,000 or so people we serve every week. It's appreciation not only for the co-op's donations to Willing Hands, where our truck is there twice a day to all of the locations. We come 7 days a week, but also for the Pennies for Change, which has just been a massive impact for our organization, allowed us to reach more people, to get more healthy, nutritious food to the Upper Valley community members. I was reading an article the other day that they did a recent study that 2017, 11 million people's death was affected by unhealthy eating, and Willing Hands and the co-op, I know as well, are real partners in trying to get the healthiest food possible to everybody in their community, so we can improve our neighbors' lives, we can improve our own lives. And I just wanted to thank you all for that and say how much it is a huge impact in the Upper Valley.
Glad to follow Willing Hands because my question relates to that story. It seemed like that the community contributions that were highlighted in the remarks tended to focus on members making donations or staff doing fundraising, and I just wanted to see if there were a couple of examples like the food waste reduction that the co-op itself is doing in terms of contributing to the community.
Yeah, those are certainly were highlighted today. We do in a lot of different ways. For example, we've in our Norwich Service Center, we've entered into a relationship with one of our partners here with Listen to offer vouchers for people that go to Listen for their car with car issues, because we know from studies that is one of the biggest impacts of people getting to work, getting to childcare, is their transportation. You know, that's recently started. A lot of what we also do is use our employees' expertise in different fields to help other organizations and the policies that we think are important. We have Alan Reitz, who's our actual director of public policy, spends a lot of time on 4 key issues that we've identified, which is workforce housing, benefits, and employee benefits and wages. Alan?
We also focus on food security, as well as under some level B issues which are critical, such as transportation, farm advocacy, and we just did a month-long workshop series for farmers and food producers, which was at a $5 rate. And we did 10 workshops, brought in outside experts as well as our in-house staff, and the money raised goes to 4-H clubs.
So we have initiatives. Thank you, Alan. So we have initiatives like that going on all the time, and because we are a voice on many of these issues, and we have great employees that really understand what's and can help with these partners and drive these issues forward. So in addition to the tangible product, the money that's donated, the food that's donated, there's a lot of that work going on all the time that we can contribute to the community and to help us move forward and everybody else.
It's great to see how focus areas like workforce housing align with other community partners like Vital Communities, so that the impact, I think, goes a lot farther in that way. My second question actually is for you as well. If you frame the ends policies as aspirational, how do they support near and medium term evaluation?
But another very good question. The ends policies aren't, they are aspirational. They're not a race to the finish line. Once we're there, we stop doing. So in the ends report that was just published, that was presented to the board of directors and to our members and everybody, is available on our website. And through the ends, each ones are addressed, and the interpretation of the ends and how we're meeting those ends with different examples, some qualifiers, and I would be happy to discuss that with you if you want to take some time to look through it. It's a pretty long report, but it's very good, and it's very easy to read.
Awesome, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I don't think it's often pointed out that the co-op is the only grocery store in Hanover, the only service station in Hanover. It may be true that now they're the only service station in Norwich. That's pretty good. But I have one suggestion for Hanover, this being pothole season. I don't want to generate business for the front end repairs. A couple of buckets, it's not a time when you can do really good patching, but a couple of buckets.
Master plan.
A couple of buckets of hardtack would be a big help. Thank you.
Hi, I just wanted to kind of echo what Gabe was saying. I'm Stacy Chiocchio, and I'm honored to be the new incoming board chair of the Upper Valley Haven. Michael Redman, who's our new executive director, who's been fantastic and has really hit the ground running, taking over for Sarah Kobolinsky, was out of town, and he was like, oh, it's the annual co-op meeting, we have to make sure we go and thank people. I was like, absolutely. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So appreciative, so helpful to those who are experiencing food insecurity. And I just want to know that I'm humbled to be representing them here today, but we're incredibly grateful.
I had one question for you. What is the co-op doing with regard to electric vehicles and renewable energy, charging stations, solar panels on the roofs of the stores and so forth. I'd like to know what plans are being made or what has already been done.
For those who don't know, Tony was our former board chair. So another excellent topic. As you may or may not already know, in our Lebanon store, we do have solar hot water panels that have been in place for quite a while. In our new location in Gilman and Way River Junction, there's solar panels on that building as well. We have not dug deep into the electric car charging stations. There's licensing around that. How is it paid for? Because of course it's not just free. There would be a cost to somebody, and how would that work? And beyond that, you know, we are always looking at what are the opportunities ahead, but that's what we're doing right now. And actually, we're going to have some discussions later on what internally, what are more opportunities that are out there, what does the market look like. It's moving very fast with the technology, with trade. So we want to be very cautious moving forward with that, but we do see it as something very important. One thing that our Director of Facilities always brings forward with the electricity coming into New England, he refers to it as dirty electricity because it comes from gas and coal-fired plants from around the country. So we have an energy portfolio for our co-op where we can pick and choose and move around where our energy is coming from, whether it's a renewable source or a non-renewable source. And we balance out the cost end of that, which makes sense because we have to make sure we're not spending too much money, and we balance that out with where the source of the energy is coming from. So we keep a really close eye on that. Last week, I was at the Neighboring Food Co-op's annual meetings, and they asked me to speak on a panel on climate change, and I said, I'm a political science and religious studies degree. I'm not a scientist. But I talked about our different programs that we have going on, and the energy portfolio was really eye-opening to people. They didn't realize that they can actually talk to their carriers or their broker, whoever they use, and say, this is where I want my energy to come from that makes sense for both where I can economically deal with and what I socially feel is the right thing to do.
What percentage of members are also employees?
We have about 220 of our employees are members out of 360.
Oh, Amanda Shaw.
Good morning. Bill.
Good morning.
Sue Kaplan, Lebanon, and I drive by Centera often at night, and I believe the street lights, the parking lot lights may be LED already, but I think that there's too much light pollution. I know that lighting is often used for safety, but you know, you could pick up a pebble easily with all of that lighting. I mean, it's a bad simile, but so I'm just wondering if you have smart controls and whether you can turn some of them off at night.
Sure, that's a great question, and I know it's one that has occurred to a lot of folks and I've heard before. Any thoughts on that? Of course, we don't own that space, but...
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Like Bill said, we don't own that property, we lease it, and we have neighbors, and we'll have to run it. As you know, there's several different businesses up there that will, I'm sure, have a voice in it, including the owner of the property. But thank you for bringing that up. It's something that we'll certainly address with them. We have a very good relationship with the landlords, and they've been extremely responsive, and we'll be working on the parking lot with the potholes in Lebanon, now that the weather's passed, and Hanover.
Right there, that looks like a follow-up question.
That's an old story, and we've been working on it for years, I think. Has it improved since we first built that store?
I'm sorry, which store?
The light pollution.
This is actually the first I've heard of it, and for me, and I will certainly look into it. And this is the first it's come to my attention.
I had hoped to fill out my 3-year term, but I am going to miss the last few weeks of it. And must lay down my membership and this wonderful time I've had to serve as a president. So please do not vote for Bill Craig when you're looking at your ballots. And I'm sorry to have to do that. Some of you know that it's been a difficult couple of years with a lot of family losses and illnesses, and it's time for me to turn my attention directly to home issues. And I am so happy to know that you're about to meet, if you haven't met them yet, an amazing slate of candidates. And so as far as I'm concerned, you're trading up for me. And furthermore, I know that they will be instrumental in helping the co-op take its next steps. To just, whoever you choose, you're getting some really amazing folks. So thank you for that, and if I may, just for a moment, just thank you all for this opportunity to serve. It's been great. The co-op movement is one of the most beautiful things I know. And to my fellow board members, to my members, fellow members, and to the staff, thank you very, very much for that opportunity. Board members whose terms are up. Also up this term right now, coming out at the same time, are Kevin Birdsey, Jessica Giordani, Dana Grossman, and Ed House. I wish I could tell you all the good work that I've seen these people put in. It's been a pleasure working with them. Some of them are candidates, so you will have the opportunity to see them in that role in just a moment, but overall we want to thank them all. Come on up here and, well, I'm sorry, I should close the meeting officially. This is our opportunity to close this annual meeting of the Hanover Consumer Cooperative Society. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Second. Seconded. All in favor of adjourning the meeting, please raise a hand. Thank you. All opposed? All abstaining. Thank you, folks. It's been wonderful.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming here on this beautiful Saturday morning. It's a lot better than 2 years ago when we had an April snowstorm on April 1st. I'm Liz Blum, I'm the vice chair of the board, and it is with great sorrow that I will miss working with our president, Bill Craig. We've worked very closely together for 2 years, and I think we've made a lot of progress in the co-op, and we've done a number of wonderful things. Before I call the candidates up, I want to mention an unsung hero who's here, Alan Reitz, who is our Director of Public Relations, and mention a couple of things, because I was sitting here looking at this sign, paying farmers fairly for what they grow and give us. A couple of things that Alan has spearheaded and led the way in was when Congress proposed to make work requirements for SNAP, formerly known as food stamp benefits. Alan took the lead with Ed Fox in opposing this in both states, and which the board also supported. And there is a new project that is hosted in the Upper Valley by Dave Chapman from Longwing Farms, and you may be eating his tomatoes pretty often. It's called the Real Organic Project, and Alan has helped support that project for farmers who want an add-on label for products that are grown in the soil and the sun that are not hydroponic or CAFO confined animal feedlot operations. So we know where our food is really, where our real farmers are and where our real food is coming from. I'd love to thank the committee I worked with. I had the honor of chairing the elections committee this year. First, I'd like to thank April Harkness, who you've heard a lot about, and we could not have done this without April. our wonderful board administrator, Alicia Barrett, who is walking around collecting plates, who is our employee on the committee, because we like to have employees on our co-op committees. Lynn Shad, are you here, Lynn? No, from Cornish, who's a member. We also like to include members on our committees. And Victoria Fullerton, who is a board member but cannot be here. So thank you all. You've been a great committee to work with. I'd like to call the candidates up to take seats, please, in front of the room. You will each have 2 minutes to make a statement. April will be our timer, please. And about two minutes, and then I will ask you some questions, and the members can ask you some questions as well.
Okay, so has everybody had the opportunity to look at the statements? Yes? Okay, great. So I need to make a real-time amendment. So if anybody, or most of you who have read it, know that I have worked with Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center. I oversaw the blood donor program, Cellular Therapy Center. I am no longer working in that department, which is part of the reason you see me wearing this sweated hoodie, because I now work at the School of Business. So just put that out there. I am currently now the Associate Director of Business Leadership Programs, specifically working with minority-owned and women-owned businesses. So I'm just putting that out there. Okay, so I am fairly new to the Upper Valley, but I do feel deeply rooted. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. I was recruited by Dartmouth Hitchcock to work with the community members to help grow the blood donor program. The first 2 years, I have worked really hard with community partners, with community businesses in the area, over 24, on building relationships and helping to educate the community about the importance of blood donations. Not even one of the most significant partner during that time happens to be the co-op food stores, where I work very closely with them on helping to educate the community on the importance of blood donations. So I've worked with Alan Reeds, Mike Myers, and I can't tell you how impressed I was with their commitment to the program. In fact, we would have weekly meetings, and that's unheard of. And they were completely, totally supportive of the mission. And that's part of the reason I felt that I wanted to be a part of this organization, be a part of the team, because of that commitment. I've also sat in on a number of board meetings where I witnessed firsthand the vigorous, passionate, but respectful debates in those sessions, and it just really confirmed to me the level of commitment and dedication that the board members have for this organization. So that, along with the fact that I have a little 5-year-old who's such a picky eater, and it's really difficult trying to get her to eat healthy, and the co-op, of course, has a kids program that she was too young to attend, but she's getting to that point now that she can start attending those sessions. So it's programs like that that really drew me in and makes me feel like I want to be a part of this innovative organization. So, is that 2 minutes up?
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
I'm Elaine Schwinkowski. I'm a transplant from Los Angeles, California. Our youngest daughter came to Dartmouth Hitchcock Geisel Medical School in 2010. And we followed her because we had family issues that we had to deal with. Some of you that know me will know that our son passed in 2008. And so we knew that she would need a closer connection to us going through medical school, so we moved from there to here. Our joy has been dealing with medical school students, feeding them, providing a place where they could have parties, sleep over, and moms didn't have to worry about them journeying home driving home having too much to drink. And that's what we did until 2015. I have been involved with the Hartford Committee on Equity and Inclusion. There were some issues that came to bear in 2017. Therefore, our committee was ad hoc, and we are now a standing committee. And what we're working for is to make sure that all people that are on the edges of what we consider society, whether it be by race, by gender, by economics, that we bring everyone in. And so this drew me to the co-op, obviously. I'm a cook. I love to cook. I love to buy wonderful cuts of meat, which I find at the co-op, and I love to feed people. My background is I was an administrative commercial lender, and I used to make multi-million-dollar loans when I was in Los Angeles. And so my home office was in Beverly Hills, and so I have this kind of storied background of limos and airplanes and yachts because I used to finance them. And I enjoyed it. I've been a member of the Chamber of Commerce. I was on the board of AYSO for 3 years because I was a bad soccer mom, meaning I yelled at the referees more than I can ever want to tell you. And so my penance was to be on that board and to assign referees for games for 3 years. I was also president of the board of our Junior Symphony Orchestra. I love living in the Upper Valley. My family's in California, and my youngest is in Pennsylvania right now at UPenn. She will be going to Ann Arbor in July of 2020 for her fellowship. We are not moving to Ann Arbor. This is it. And I appreciate having the opportunity to meet everyone in the community and to be involved. And if I were to be elected, I would hope that you would allow me, with your ideas, to put that on the board. And thank you very much.
Okay, hi, I'm Carrie Kosick, and I moved back, back to New Hampshire area, but specifically to the Upper Valley in October. So I've just survived my first winter. More to the point, my first winter living up a very windy, muddy driveway. So I can now plow a driveway with a tractor, if you need that skill. But I thought what I'd spend a little time talking about, I guess my 2 minutes, with my relevant professional experience, since I think everyone's seen the candidate statements. I worked in PR mostly for big corporations in New York City and then in Boston, and eventually 10 years ago found my way to Stonyfield Farm, where I was their communications director. And that was my first experience professionally, where I really saw the power of working for companies that support initiatives and are there for a purpose that's much bigger than just making money. So that really opened up a lot to me and helped me kind of shift gears, and eventually I started my own PR agency supporting companies that do that. So smaller brands, a lot of actually the products that you'll see walking up and down the aisles of the co-op, so finished packaged goods, rices and crackers and cookies and things like that, beverages. But the other thing I get to do, which I really consider a privilege, I spent the past 5 years in Boulder in between those New Hampshire time frames. And that was where I started the business. And I got close to a company and started doing the PR for a trade show called Natural Products Expo. You might have heard of it, you might not have. It's the biggest trade show for the food industry. I gotta go, I know I have like 10 seconds. So like 90,000 people come, and all of the brands that are at the expo, they come and they talk about their new products. But more to the point, it's 90,000 people talking about ideas and how this industry can come together and do things like eliminate single-use plastic and support the environment. We have an entire day of education on climate change and regenerative agriculture, so taking that organic a step further and really making sure we have healthy soils, that we have healthy vegetables, that we have healthy animals, and you all understand that, you're all co-op shoppers and know how this works, but I really have loved getting closer to this industry, and I think that's part of what draws me to running for the board, is to really see how that plays out in our community and our store, and how we can all make those purchase decisions here that support healthy foods and agricultural practices and things that are meaningful to us, but also, of course, the other initiatives. As the co-op grows and succeeds, we can support these great organizations we've heard about here that are doing good work in our community. So thanks.
Hi, I'm Kevin Bergsey. I am a sitting board member as well as an employee of our co-op. And so when I ran 3 years ago, I was able to bring that employee experience that was lacking a little bit at a time where it was needed. So now I'm happy to tack onto that some board experience after one term. One of those best examples of that is on a board that follows a model where you govern through written policy. I've chosen to be a leader in being emboldened to write updated policy. One of those that I'm most proud of is Ed showed you the end statement. That last one, happy to have written that over this past year, and that's to, in addition to all the other great things our co-op does, strong sales, a steward of the environment, a strong employer, that in addition to all of that, we can also work towards more diversity and inclusion and equity in our Upper Valley community. And one of the reasons I felt that was so necessary is because also in this term I've had the opportunity to attend presentations and engage in conversations with other cooperative management and board members through nationally and regionally about this issue and how we have so much left to achieve as a society in this topic. And the other thing we've done in this past term collectively is sign on for more training on how to govern appropriately. And one of the most important lessons we've gotten thus far is that our job is to connect with you as the membership as owners. And so I'd love to be a part of continuing that on, hearing more of what you want out of this business of ours. And I hope to challenge you all to think outside your shopping cart, think outside the walls of the store, and think about the cooperative impact that our business has on the community around us, the world around us, beyond the Upper Valley. So I want to hear from you. Look forward to working with my colleagues, both old and new, in another term, and I thank you for your vote.
Hello again. I'm Jessica Giordani, and I am a current board member. I joined the board of the co-op last year, and magically I'm back again for another election cycle as I came in to replace a board member who had resigned. And in my short but I feel productive time on the board, it's been an incredible learning experience. I came to run for a board seat last year through my kind of engagement in the larger food community as the coordinator for the Lebanon Farmers Market, and also through my membership of the co-op. I have kids at home, and I spent years as a baker, so I have big passion around food and sustainability and local agriculture. So those were the things that kind of led me to be involved. And since having the opportunity to serve the community through my seat on the board, I've been chosen to be the liaison to the member engagement committee that exists within the co-op, and I've been able to work with Amanda Charland and her staff of really kind of brilliant people to learn more about who we are as a community and how people engage with the co-op and what the co-op can be doing to better serve you all and grow and support local agriculture and really maintain our role as a leader of environmental stewardship in the community. So I am hoping to continue my work with the board and be able to grow and expand these projects and do my best to serve. And I think that will do it for now, because I know we have Ed and then questions. So thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ed Howes. I've worked for the co-op for 25 years. I've been on the board for 9 years now. And I gotta say that I've seen so much outside the walls of our co-op that typically members don't see. That because I see it, I couldn't be more proud of this organization and what it's accomplished, what it does with people all across the nation. It's an incredible organization with a lot of impact that's really effective and only limited by member patronage. So if you want this co-op to do more, increase your patronage. Like Kevin said, we're a hybrid co-op. we treat all, customers equally because they want all different things. I think that's one of the beauties of our success of our co-op is that we are open to a lot of variety of people. And these people have a lot of different ideas and values and views, but it's really important that all that information is shared, that I know what your value is, and I know what your value is. Because without that, and that's what the beauty of being on the board is an experience where I represent a tremendous membership with so divergent opinions, yet they all have to be heard. And so that's what I find exciting to be on the board. No one person knows it all, but we have to keep our minds open to another view, another value. That's where I find my learning comes from, is being open and flexible to consider another person's view, to walk in their shoes and say, hey, I can understand why you feel that way. That's part of what is used to come to a lot of the board decisions that we make. And they're not easy decisions by any means, but they're the best talented people that we have here. And being on the board as long as I have and seeing a lot of different elections, I'm so impressed with the slate this year that even if I didn't serve again, I'd be a little relieved most but to see this passion and to carry this organization forward.
The co-op, as most of you know, just opened a wonderful new service station, service center in Norwich at the old Prime Subaru site. And I have an appointment next Monday for getting my car inspected there. And I encourage you Vermonters to all go there for your car inspections. But in light of this, where do you see, what are your ideas about the future of the growing co-op sector in our community? And how would you address that as a board member?
As a board member, it would be to create the avenue or the forum for discussion of need. I mean, a co-op exists because a lot of people have common needs, and they need those needs filled. And so the more that we hear what your needs are, and you're not probably alone, or there's many people like you that have similar needs. We just got to know what those are. So just having that dialogue of how can we be more of service, and it might be a totally different. You look at another country. There's a lot of different. There's cooperative funeral homes, there's cooperative schools and stuff. So just to have that dialogue, I'll keep it open.
Okay, I think that there's lots of there's vast opportunity for the co-op to expand what falls under our umbrella of cooperative business within the Upper Valley. I think that the service center expansion is fantastic, and I also am particularly interested in our exploration opportunities with solar energy. We talked about that a bit at the last board meeting, looking at the property where the farmers market takes place in Norwich. But I think that as the community is more environmentally conscious and is looking to the co-op to play a bigger role in what we're doing here, I think it's great to get feedback from membership and think about ways that we can expand and grow and meet those community needs.
Yeah. So what immediately comes to mind is there's a similar to smaller but similar to our food co-op down in Durham, North Carolina. And I was able to hear a lot of what they're fairly new, or renewed, I guess, and they're doing a lot of great things in their community there. And they do like a lot of great community dinners. And I was like, well, that's such a great idea, but we also have this great partner here in Listen that's doing that sort of thing already. So, but it just got me thinking about the little things we can do to kind of outreach beyond just selling food. What can we do to connect with people? Because that's really what this business is it's food and people. And so in terms of branching out to other cooperative sectors, we have the wherewithal to start with food, and we have the people. And so when I've had conversations about this sort of thing with Ed Fox, he's mentioned that we have that. We already have a lot of infrastructure, human resources, maintenance and facilities crews, stuff like that. So I don't know if I know how we're going to branch out next, but I believe we have the ability to creatively think of ways to branch out next.
Thank you. I've hired someone to move the mic.
Someone's qualified for this,
Sure. So I will say, as a this is kind of speaking more as a member shopper at the co-op. When I walk through the doors of the co-op, I feel like I can trust that there are going to be products that I want and things that I need, but also that my values align with the co-op's values. And so we have to go to the supermarket and have to procure food, or we can grow it. But those in this room, I think, have to go. And we also need to take care of things like our cars and get these inspections and things. So to be able to go into places that are kind of necessary to our day-to-day life and know that they align with our values, that to me feels like a very important thing. And so I like that the co-op offers that, and there may be other ways to extend that to other kind of necessary services or things like that.
Thank you. So the service center in Norwich, I always felt was a brilliant idea, and so it's all about innovation, and I think our role in the community is to continue to innovate. When Subaru left that spot, it left a void and it left an opportunity. I often need servicing with the amount of miles that I use on my vehicle. And so thankfully, we put a space that you and others in the community can utilize. And I think that's the same exact way we have to think about everything that we do. We look at opportunities to innovate, grow, meet the community needs. And I think as long as this team of individuals get together as often as we do, we will continue to innovate and listen and meet those needs.
My idea for a possible future that the co-op could look at is based on personal experience. My husband had a total knee replacement 2 years ago, and that was after our daughter had left, and we were principally pretty much alone. And so I got involved with having food ordered in boxes, so I didn't have to go in to shop because I couldn't leave him. And I know that a lot of people, particularly someone like me, I don't like driving in the winter. Liz can tell you, some of the other board members can tell you, I'm sorry, I can't make it. The roads are really nasty and I'm not comfortable. And if we had something where there were meals that were put together that could be delivered to people, that might be some kind of way for us to expand our reach. My other idea is I would like to find a way to make food more available to the poorest people in our population. Not those that are at the haven, but those that don't even go into those environments. And they need to be able to have access to good food. Because if you don't eat well, kids in school, they don't learn. And it's a really, really important thing that people have a good source of food. And so if we could reach out, because like with my work at the Harvard Committee, 56% of the kids in White River Elementary School are below the poverty line. That's a huge number of kids. And you know, these are things that also we need to think about. How can we help them?
And their parents park at the co-op parking lot to pick them up because the co-op food store is right next to the White River Elementary School. Thank you. So, as you heard from Kevin, the co-op recently added an 8th N regarding diversity and inclusion, which you saw when the N's were put up on the board, if you could read that far. So, in light of that, the board just established at our March meeting a diversity and inclusion committee of the board, and immediately following that, our HR director, Lori Hildebrand, established a diversity and inclusion committee of the employees. So I would like to ask the board, what the board candidates, what will be your commitment to diversity as a board member?
Mine would be to support the education.
Hold on, Ed.
Mine would be to support.
Oh, wait, let's start, excuse me, start at the other end because you started here. Trying to be different.
Get your walking shoes on now. Comfortable shoes.
Can I move back just a tad? Looks like I'm getting ready to eat it. The issue is so profound today, based in our society, that we can see an obvious decline in what's happening, the amount of hate crimes that are going on. The exclusionary feeling that comes from the top down, and I am referring to Washington, D.C., to where we live today. And the way I see things happening is we have to reestablish the fact that we are all Americans. My family's been in this country for 7 generations. And as such, I don't feel like I'm African American. I am an American. And I feel that it's not my job to make anyone feel that they should feel guilt for what happened 400 years ago. What's happening to me, what's happening to my children today. Life today is where I live, and I think it's where everyone lives, and I think that there is enough opportunity for us to make sure we all thrive. And so my objective would be to make sure that all voices are heard. I see poverty as being the big, huge thing that's destroying our nation and makes people feel ashamed. I heard recently people going through the line at the co-op, if they're asked, do they want to level up? Some people are embarrassed because they can't. And, you know, these are very basic feelings that we have. And we should be always aware of the fact that as human beings, we have different kinds of things that make us feel either good or bad about ourselves. I'm very fortunate. I was the first grandchild on both sides of the family, and I'm the oldest, and I'm a spoiled brat. And so, you know, my thing is inclusion, everyone. And if we start there, then wow, what a great world we can have.
So, as I announced earlier, I currently now work with Tuck School of Business, working specifically with minority and women-owned businesses. The goal is to help these minority and women-owned businesses grow, develop. So if there's any opportunity for this board to work with minority and women-owned businesses within the community, I would do my best to help make that connection. I also work for Living Proof, which is a mentorship organization that helps families who need help with mentors for their African American or Hispanic children. So I'm currently mentoring a young African American. So any opportunity that I have to make people aware of this need, whether it be through the board, whether it be through members, I think it would be a mission fulfilled in that sense when it comes to diversity and inclusion.
So one of the things that big trade show that I had mentioned, one of the things we work on is diversity in the industry of the people that are making the foods for us. And it's similar to what you were saying, a lot of investors invest in people that look like them, which means a lot of, you know, traditionally whiter men have invested in younger white men that remind them of themselves. So what we've done is it's one thing to acknowledge it, and then it's another thing to actively take steps to do something to help change that. So we have been doing a lot more in trying to raise the profiles of people of color and of women and of different entrepreneurs so that we can start to see this. I know the co-op and the community here can relate, but start to see more different faces and more ideas and all kind of grow together. It's been harder than I think anyone would want to acknowledge, and I think everything is so kind of just ingrained, and we're, again, still just looking for people that remind us of ourselves. So I do think that there needs to be some active steps taken and some real initiatives laid out so that we don't fall into those traps of just kind of acting the way we've always acted and doing things the way we've always done them that works for us and maybe not for everybody in our community.
You, as I have, reaching out to other members that bring different experiences than me. So part of board work, you end up not just serving on committees, but you end up chairing a committee or two. I'm sure I'm going to get hit with the election committee baton again if I'm reelected. And so, like I did last year, I was really, really proud to bring in a lot of female candidates because gender inequality is still an issue in our world around us. I regretted the fact that I didn't bring any candidates of color last year. I'm thrilled that we have some this year. And so it's through the committee work, through the on the ground working with our members to solve the issues that our board solves is how I would look to solve this or help work to improve this situation. Yeah, and really, more younger people. Not only was I thrilled to have a lot of female candidates, but last year in recruiting candidates, we brought in Jessica and other Jessica, and I was like, okay, great, some other people more my age, that only have a few gray hairs. And so it's one of the workshops that we did, a segment of our board went to this fall, was one of the lessons was diversity is anybody with a different experience than your own. So really seeking out those experiences and listening to them. Fortunate enough to be truly on the ground with our business and in my day-to-day work here. I have a chance to interact with different people, different experiences. So it all is going to, hopefully, if I'm reelected, reflect on itself.
So my day job is I own a yarn shop here in the community. And when I opened Scratch in 2016 with my two partners, it was important to us that we create a community feeling in our space. And part of that was making sure that everybody knew that they were welcome in our space. There's a stereotype about knitters that it's like a bunch of older white women, and that's not true. There are knitters who come in all ages, from all backgrounds, different abilities, like everyone identifies differently, and the history of handcraft is something that everyone can be a part of. And a lot of people in the community were concerned that we might, shouldn't mix words with politics, we shouldn't be too loud about these things, and we squarely rejected that. Inside the fiber community, it's a predominantly female industry. Lots of women involved, but there are huge problems with racism. There are huge problems with that have really come to surface in recent months. There's lots of dialogue going on about this. In my business, we've from the very beginning been very intentional about working to highlight and support dyers of fiber who are underrepresented in the community. So we specifically are very intentional about working with people of color, people who are disabled or differently abled, people who are queer or gender non-conforming, and we think that the world is a better place when everyone has a place at the table, and that's very intentional, and that's part of, it's always there in everything that I work on doing, because I think that everyone deserves to be heard. And I think that there is so much opportunity for the co-op to bring in all aspects of the community. Everybody needs to eat. Everybody deserves access to healthy, locally produced when it's possible food. And the board has great opportunities with our new 8th End and our newly formed diversity committee to really take a stand and work proactively to be more inclusive. And I look forward to the opportunity to be involved in that if I'm elected again.
I mean, having gone through the past 6 months where we've really had this as a topic of discussion has been wonderful. To learn more about it, to vote for your committee, Liz, to take it to the next step, to see the GM taking an idea and going with it. I'm confident that it will come to benefit this community greatly. And as a board, can work with this co-op through policy or membership need. So as more of that comes forward, then there's more to act on.
Thank you. At this point, I'd like to open the floor to questions from members to ask the candidates.
I was simply curious if you feel that the employees here at the co-op are adequately represented.
Could you be a little more specific to me?
No, represent.
Okay. On the board?
Yes.
Okay. Well, go ahead, Catherine. Thanks.
So obviously this topic's near and dear to my heart. I was elected 3 years ago, and I was okay, here's the things I'm going to work on, this, and this, and unfortunately just didn't get around to one of them, and, well, a few of them maybe, but one of them was getting that better connection with our employees. It's important to realize, I don't know if the employees know, because when I went to my first board meeting, I was kind of shocked. I was planning on running, and the amount that the board deals with, the amount of things that the board deals with that have a direct impact on the employees, I don't want to say it's minor, but they kind of exist, they coexist. And they don't really, we don't deal with stuff that affects us on the store level. We don't. It gets there eventually, but it's pulled back. And it's sort of through Ed and the other management, the other managers that happens. So it's important to be aware of that. And I don't know, but at the same time, I think it's important to bring more employees in the know about what it is the board does. So if there's ways we can do that, once upon a time the board president had a little feature in our cooperator, in our employee newsletter. That was a regular thing, and unfortunately that kind of fell by the wayside. So getting more employees involved in committees, and I'd really love to explore with my colleagues, if I'm reelected, the idea of doing away with that cap of 2 employees on the board. What does that mean if we become 3, 4 strong? There's some dynamics that switches up. And of course, we keep pushing away, and I think we need to kind of fully grab onto and start a conversation with the employees about what a 50-50 ownership would look like, membership versus employees. We're going to hear a lot from both sides on that. So if I'm reelected, I'm definitely going to be asking that question again.
I want to mention that the board still has a standing committee on employment. It's called the EL5 committee, and that committee worked very hard with employees, members, and the administration management to eliminate at-will employment at the co-op, which I think was a great achievement. And we're still working on other benefits, grievances, and other things to make it more democratic for employees. And we'd love to hear more from you, what your ideas are.
you all are so skilled and qualified, I'm having a hard time making a decision. And one of the things that is unique about boards is that they make decisions together and they speak with one voice. So I was just curious about experiences and strengths that you have in terms of being part of a team.
Because of my age, I've worked in many teams. One of my incarnations has been as a educational consultant, and my job, I know Osakura's for, was helping young people get into graduate programs at some of our best universities in the country. And one of the things that they teach you in MBA programs is the team concept and how to work effectively in a team. And it's something that I mentored when I ran a branch bank. And you know, you have to have your lenders, you have to have your mainline staff. This is in the old days when banks had tellers and officers sitting at the desk to make loans. And I had a staff of 100 people in one office. You don't function, you don't turn an annual profit unless you're working in a team. And when I was in the various organizations, the Chamber of Commerce, the Junior Chamber of Commerce, you work collectively. So I've got a lot of experience. And at home, I can be mom and lay down the rules.
So prior to relocating to New England, I spent about 2 years in New Jersey. One of my key accomplishments was working as a key member of a team. So I led a team of 8 blood centers and 3 hospitals, all which were competing against each other in New Jersey for the market share, of course. And I was able to lead that team to accomplish a state-breaking record of having 1,000 donors come in together on one day to donate approximately 3,000 units. So I know how important it is to bring people together with different views and working closely with them for the same mission. So I hope to bring that same teamwork to the board as well.
So I really like this question because I think obviously a board that gets along and can work well together is going to get a lot more accomplished. So I think it's a really important point. You can probably back me up on this, Alan. Everybody loves PR. When you work at a company, everybody thinks that getting in the New York Times is really exciting, and they have ideas, and they want to be a part of it. So as a PR person, I've always been part of a team, if you will. Obviously leading a team that's working on projects, but really working collectively with a lot of different people and organizations to hear their ideas and incorporate them and come up with campaigns and things that people get excited about and sharing that. So I think that just as a probably part of why I've succeeded in that career is I do like working with people, and I really like working across a lot of different people and bringing things together, not standing in the way of things getting done, but helping push things forward. And so I really like working in a team.
Yeah, this is a great question because 3 years ago when I ran before, board holism was a very public part of the election and very public issue. Well, guess what? We're just better at hiding it. It's still a problem. So we were working through it. And so, previous experience, I've worked in at the stores in a fairly large department for a long time. With ever-changing staff, so teamwork becomes an issue there. I ran a committee of staff for about 6 years, so there's that. So the other thing I do, in addition to everything related to the co-op, is I'm an assistant instructor at Waverly Commerce, the martial arts school, just down the road. And a couple years ago, we decided it'd be a great idea to move from our little studio space in the Tip Top building to the corner space in the same plaza as the White River store. And so that was, we don't have like a big corporate backer. It's a small independent business, and so we just relied on the other students to help tear out floors and move and stuff like that. So, and put up posters and flyers and stuff around the towns. So definitely have a lot of experience in teamwork. A lot of that's been through the board in the last couple of years. So just happy to do more of the same, really.
I think that teamwork it's an evolving process, and board work has been really interesting in the past year where I've been working here with the co-ops board, because we all have such different backgrounds and experiences, and I think that one of the most important things you can do is work really hard to be a good listener, even though it's difficult sometimes to be listening to different perspectives that you think are not necessarily the direction things should be going. You listen and find ways to communicate with people. I had similar to board experience last year as one of the members of the Arts and Culture Task Force in the city of Lebanon, and people on that task force were a really diverse group of people with different experiences in relation to the arts. And we were coming together as a community group to try and find if there was a path for us to move forward with developing the arts and culture community in the city of Lebanon. And we were able to take our different experiences and listen to each other and work collaboratively and not let perfect be the enemy of good, so we could find a place to move forward with the city. And we've been able to develop an official city commission now that's convening this month. But I think that board work is very similar to that, where you have to find ways to come together and work with one another to continue making progress. And I think we make our best efforts to do that on our board.
Teamwork is very important, and it's not hereditary. So you have to teach it and learn it. One of the most memorable decades of my working at the co-op, and the most meaningful, was the period where Terry brought in process improvement teams. It was, the co-op had an issue to address. It put together a diverse group of different people that worked together to find a solution to this issue. Then that team would present it to the management team, and the management team had to say yay or nay right then to implement this. And that was just an incredible experience working and developing teamwork experience. Again, it's not hereditary. You got to learn it. You got to listen. For me, it's very important. And but to see the results of what that team, this is this is over a number of years, many different pit teams they call them, and a lot was accomplished with that program. And it's, I think it's continued on till today. And the board work is, again, there's another place to apply team strategy and work together.
Ditto. Honest to goodness, I don't think I've ever seen a finer set of more qualified candidates for anything. Just a wonderful slate. Thank you guys so much all for stepping up, and I know everything is going to work out great. I believe that in my flusteredness, I may have said that we closed our annual business meeting before. It's time to actually close the meeting now. Let's see, things to let you know before you go. These pint glasses over here are a parting gift to all. I'm not sure about the moral message, but take one. And it has been a great pleasure again. Thank you all for volunteering to be here. And can I hear a motion, please, to close the annual meeting of the Hanover Consumer Cooperative Society? One over there, and a second? Second, thank you. All in favor of closing the meeting, please raise a hand. Thank you. All opposed? And all abstaining? Thank you once again. Have a great day.